Welcome back to another episode of Kris Yeti's News Review. Guys, this is going to be a special one. It's the end of the year, so I'm thinking some kind of special, something that you do during the holidays. Is it like a Christmas special? We're going to be talking about our old buddies in North Korea, Kim Jong-un, and he is firing off missiles left and right. Iran is locking everybody up as a protester. If you question them or make the wrong comment on Facebook, you're going to get locked up. Stay tuned for this and more here on Kris Yeti's News Review. God, is this snow going to stop? North Korea is in the headlines once again this week, and it's because they're doing the same old thing over and over again. Our buddy Kim Jong-un, if you can guess what he's up to, is decided to keep throwing missiles over the ocean in hope that nobody notices. He fired off a few of the missiles in celebration of his latest technology / don't mess with us or we're going to keep firing these off, as if the whole rest of the world doesn't already have missiles to deal with. I mean, everybody knows about Russia, so it's like Russia has a brother 1/10 the size of it threatening the same kind of threats. It's hard to really take him seriously. I think the most people that are concerned is Japan or perhaps even China, as the missiles, may go in the wrong direction and hit the population there. Thankfully, we think these missiles are just duds. They go up past the air, they go into some kind of quasi-orbit, not quite a complete one, and come back down. North Korea is kind of like that neighbor on the 4th of July that you have that keeps on doing fireworks well into about 3 in the morning, and you're trying to go to sleep finally, and because you have a long day at work tomorrow and you're hungover, but then the guy down the street just keeps popping off fireworks. North Korea is probably never going to learn their lesson, and especially now with Russia seeking ammunition purchases from North Korea, they're going to gladly fill that check, but this is the first time that major countries have looked to North Korea for help. And so I can only imagine that Kim Jong-un is sitting there like, yes, they're finally asking me for help. It's mostly funny. But sad at the same time. I mean, their ammunition is probably decades old, just like Russia's. Even though they hoard it, ammunition has an expiration date. Okay, folks? You can't have a box of Twinkies and a box of rounds right next to each other for 10 years. Only one of them is going to be good, and it's not for killing the other person. Well, if you give them enough Twinkies, they're probably going to fall over dead. And looking at Kim Jong-un, I can't help but to think that he's maybe eating more Twinkies than he is bullets. And I can't say so much for his rivals. They're definitely eating more bullets than Twinkies. North Korea, I'm sure, is all the more happy to send these ammunition to Russia in exchange for very fat checks. North Korea is kind of like really good at getting around all the sanctions the world has put on them. Does that put in questions how effective sanctions are? I think so. We can't talk about one dictator without leading into the next dictator, folks. We're going to talk about Iran and its government. These guys have a tight clamp on how protesters go about the world. Look, I understand. Protesters, they cause a lot of trouble, they cause problems, and it's really hard to run a government when you have a mob of people standing outside with pickets and pitchforks saying, we demand this or that. However, it does seem a bit ridiculous when you start locking up people left and right. You got everything from famous or semi-famous athletes to famous celebrities. This famous Iranian celebrity, spoken out, was detained. We don't know if they're going to get executed, but we probably can assume she's going to get executed unless the leader of Iran really likes her movies. If it's anything like me, I probably don't like her movies. But it's funny how this headline says, famous celebrity arrested for protesting or for speaking out about the protest. But what about the non-famous celebrities? Old Fred there, he's been an extra for a long time in Iranian films. He's been speaking out, but the government's like, does arresting this guy and hanging him really mean anything? And if not, we gotta go after the big profiles. Look, if you're an Iranian, it's time to go down to your local Winchester, grab a drink, and wait for the storm to blow over, all right? It's funny how people in America will get all ramped up over elections and say, we're moving out if this president wins next. Doesn't matter who. The other side is always just saying the same thing. We're going to leave. We're out of here. And then you have people like in Iran who can't leave, and when they do say something, they get arrested, and then they probably say something more and then get... Reminds me of that old show, The Dictator. What would you do differently if you were in Iran right now? Would you just simply be quiet? Would you stand up and protest? Tell me honestly in the comments below how you feel you would handle this situation. It's not easy, and I do feel bad for the people there. So I'm open to real solutions. Just bring them on. Let's do it. Let's find something other than top-level political debating and take action. In other news of technology, it's pretty rare that we get huge technological breakthroughs in human society. Typically, it's just a fraction of additional knowledge from the last person. I think Isaac Newton said it best, and perhaps then later Albert Einstein. We are merely standing on the shoulders of giants. So it's incredibly rare that you'll have a huge moment where you'll go from nothing to something. Usually it's nothing, a little bit more than nothing, a little bit more than that, a little bit more than that, 2 steps back, and then finally big progress. I mean, look at the history of the Manhattan Project and how much resources it took to finally come up with a mechanical device that represents the theory of the splitting of the atom. Huge amount of money, huge amount of resources, and this was 1940s money. So anyways, this company called Helion has come out with a new fusion reactor, and it's called the Plasma Accelerator. This is exciting, all right? We're talking about light years ahead that of the closest nuclear reactor in energy output. And in case you're not familiar with fusion reaction, this is basically the effort of taking energy from the reaction of taking 2 atoms and crashing them into each other, and then that energy that comes from those 2 atoms basically capturing the thermal effect of that and using it to power probably steam water or something that turns a turbine, which in turn turns an electrical device. Very similar to our closest star, also known as the sun. It has a fusion reactor that is very, very powerful, and we are constantly trying to imitate that. Folks, if we get a fusion reaction, it's going to be incredible. While we've been struggling to really get one of any level of efficiency, all of these countries and research agencies have been putting into a traditional design that's kind of like one big tank. They try to get a fusion reaction in this tank. It just has been a very slow progress. So long story short, here comes the company Helion, and they have a new plasma accelerator. This is great because it basically takes 2 rings of plasma, shoots them at each other in the center, and a bunch of magnet coils trap it right there and generate that of which you saw in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, with Doc Ock. Now, this was exposed in the movie and very fictional, very exaggerating. The damage that this guy did to New York City was long already done. That's why they had to reboot the Spider-Man franchise, because Doc Ock totally screwed up New York City. They didn't tell you this in the movies, but oh, dude, he screwed this up. This is a fundamental different design. On the other hand, like I said, you have a big tank that they're trying to create all this energy in, and they're struggling. And then Helion comes along with a completely new design and eradicates the old design. Now, I bet all the other companies, especially like in France and Switzerland, they've spent millions and millions and even billions of dollars in some cases on these new designs just to be like, oh man, we're gonna have to tear this down and start all over again. I mean, Helion did such a fantastic job at representing where the future is going. If any of these companies or organizations continue forth on that design, they're gonna cause some problems in the future and be wasting a lot of money. Let's just give it up for Helion. Not only do they have a freaking cool name, but they're actually making real progress in fusion technology. But then again, it's like that old highway argument for the engineers, right? If you have 2-lane highway and it's constantly gridlock with cars, and you open up 3, 4, 5, 6 lanes of roads, there's the theory that all these cars start going back to the highway because it's now available, and then it returns to gridlock. So you get an extra lane, but other drivers decide to go ahead and use the highway because they've opened up a lane. So why not? But then we're back to square zero, where it's a traffic jam with 6 different lanes on the highway. So everyone right now is like, oh, what if we have unlimited energy? It's gonna break everything. The world's gonna freak out. We're gonna do all this stuff. It's like a kid being left home for the first time when his parents are walking out and they leave him with a full cabinet of liquor and say, don't party. But if you do party, we basically have unlimited liquor. Now, while the unlimited liquor part may be true, trust me, your son and or daughter is going to consume 2/3 of it before you get back and fill those bottles up with water. What I'm getting at is, even though humans have possibly tapped into the era of unlimited energy, unlimited clean energy, mind you, we're still probably going to find a way to use every last drop. I mean, these 4K videos are not going to download themselves. Just wait till we get into 8K and 12K. Oh, that's right, I said it, 12K. Mark my words. All right, so we of course have Elon Musk. He's always in the news every week. We're not gonna talk about him every week, but we talk about him every other week. And only like 50 people watch this channel, which, by the way, thank you so much for watching this and supporting, because this is going to be the best damn news review channel ever, period. That's if my mother-in-law decides to give me a break for recording, because she sounds like she's dragging a dead body upstairs, and we need to take care of that immediately. Elon Musk, he's at Twitter. You know, he's got SpaceX, he's got Tesla, he's got The Boring. Does he still do The Boring Company? Nobody's heard anything about The Boring Company lately. I think it's all secret underground passages. They've told him to shut up about it. All the celebrities just want secret tunnels to get from point A to point B. No celebrity wants to get stuck in traffic. So Elon Musk, same strategy with Twitter, where he's now letting people just pay randomly for one of those blue check marks. Well, he's probably going to do the same thing for his underground network of tunnels, where he's just like, just pay extra and I'll let you use it. And that's going to slowly become more and more exclusive to famous and rich and all these people that just feel bothered for having to participate in the daily human life. But I digress. Look, Elon and Twitter, it's a fact. He took it over. I hear all this news and hype about the board trying to undermine him, and the Congress trying to say, oh, well, you forgot to sign this page 48 out of page 500, so we're going to tell the board on you and let them know that you may not be appropriately at the stage that you think you are. It's like, what the fuck are you talking? Shh. In my opinion, I'm really curious to see where Twitter goes after, give it a year. Give it 2 years. Just give them some time to figure out this whole virtual free speech thing and where it's going to go. Is it just going to devolve into 4chan? Nobody really knows. But if it does become the next 4chan, then everybody should leave Twitter immediately. If he can manage to solve this crisis, I dare say he should buy up the telecommunications industry. AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, all those guys that broke off from the original AT&T in the 1980s and the 1990s, they're constantly, we don't know how to solve the spam problem. So we've all been accepting more calls from spam than we have our own family and friends. And just like the internet, the phone system now wants to prove that you're real and not the bots. We've already been replaced by AI. People just don't realize it. Everywhere you go online, capture this, capture that, prove that you're not a bot, prove to me that you're not a robot. I don't know how anybody goes about doing that. It's ridiculous. But here we are, nonetheless, already post AI taking over the world, and people are still debating that's not the case. If Elon can accomplish this, I think he should buy the telecommunication market, and by doing so, put an end to spam calls once and for all. Which is, saying, hey, you have to prove that you're not AI to use my services. Why is that the case? Figure out the problem without making humans the ones to have to figure this out for your company. Before I get too stressed out with Twitter and telecommunications, let's move on to our buddy, The Rock. Do you smell what he's probably not cooking? And that's gonna be his next movie at Warner Brothers. I'm just gonna call him The Rock. I don't wanna call him Dwayne Johnson, okay? The Rock and Henry Cavill, the original Superman, have joined forces and they both are workout bros, and they come up with the movie Black Adam, and he's able to make a cameo appearance. I'm not even a DC fan, and I'm surprised that they got Henry Cavill back in the Superman outfit. But even though they convinced Warner Brothers to do this, Warner Brothers later decided, you know what? Let's get rid of Henry Cavill. Why does Warner Brothers want to get rid of Henry Cavill? I think that's more of a question than it is upset that they did get rid of him. My suspicion is they want Black Adam to actually just completely curb stomp Superman. And they don't want to curb stomp Henry Cavill. So I think they all came to an agreement. Henry Cavill's out. The Rock is in as Black Adam. And then the next Superman that's going to come in has to fight Black Adam, right? But The Rock can't lose. It's in his contract. You look at all his movies from Fast and Furious and beyond. This man can't lose. It's in his contract. Just straight up. So if he can't lose, and Henry Cavill is Superman, then Henry Cavill is going to lose. His contract just doesn't have the same power level as The Rock. And because of that, then that means they're going to need to bring in a dummy Superman that can get the shit kicked out of him by The Rock, and The Rock can stand there like, yes. But don't worry, we are all going to be subjected to every single last drop of IP between DC and Marvel. Every character, we're going to see them all. And now every character represents a possible gold mine, especially if they can get a very fancy actor to stand behind the name. Black Adam comes out without The Rock, and people are like, who is this? This movie sucks. So you better brace yourselves, because the movie onslaught of Marvel and DC characters, I wouldn't say has started. It's just begun, and we're in for a very long ride. And they're going to destroy and recreate and bring back and then take back, before bringing it all back, all of our favorite characters that we loved in DC and Marvel, starting with Henry Cavill here. And not to mention the female Batman. That just wasn't going to work. All right, that's the one thing I'll tip my hat to Warner Brothers. These guys sat down in the theater and be like, oh my God, if this movie gets out, it's the end of the world. We should be tipping our hats to these heroes. This is like Bruce Willis in Armageddon. He saved the planet and nobody appreciates him, except maybe Steve Buscemi. That guy's amazing. He's my favorite actor of all time. Tell me in the comments below if you disagree that Steve Buscemi is the greatest actor of all time. Definitely better than The Rock, if you ask me, and should be given immediately a superhero movie to lead. And let's move on to sports, which is our final segment. I love sports, well, increasingly so, but the NFL, I just can't get into. I like the idea of the NFL. I like the idea of American football, you know, where it's this kind of military strategy of two teams having to create plays to get around each other and jostle for defense and offense, but it bogs down in slowness. It's like real life. You have war and then you have politics. And quite frankly, American football is bogged down in politics in the same sense that American politics are bogged down. It's like you'll have a few seconds of an exciting play and then it's off to commercials, it's off to side switching, it's off to coaches arguing, and it's off to, there's more football not being played than there is football being played in American football. That's why I like the NBA more than American football, because it just has more action. It has less physical contact, especially since the 90s and 80s and all that jazz, but overall, just less contact than the NFL. And that's fine. We don't need to kill our professional athletes just so they can entertain us. I mean, that was something we did thousands of years ago. We can bring it back, but let's pace ourselves. All right, human race, just pace yourself. So the NBA has a bit more excitement for me. It's constant action. They do pause, they have timeouts, they have fouls, they have whistles, they have beeps. It's cool, the arena's nice, but at least there's more action. The players are running up, they're running down, they're running up, they're running down. The balls are flying, they're trying to go to small hoops. Football, I mean, it's just so slow. Anyways, I may start getting more into the NFL for this segment, but for now, the NBA. And speaking of the NBA, I must say, Anthony Davis, guess what? I've been saying it this whole season. This guy is so injury prone. He makes Seth Curry look like he's immortal physically. Like, Seth Curry has never gotten injured because of how much injury Anthony Davis has. This man was becoming a god on the court for a few games, and then he goes and gets his foot hurt again. He's going to turn out like Yao Ming. He's going to turn out like Tracy McGrady. All this promise, all this potential, just to be sidelined every single season because of foot, ankle, and knee injuries. I think it's hilarious that he was playing himself in a game. His game character got injured. And his reaction was priceless. I mean, just look at this. And I kept showing this to friends and family and was like, it's so funny. And I was the only one saying he's going to get injured again. Every time he's been injured, there's nothing to say that what he's been doing isn't going to change. So let's just cross Anthony Davis off the books. LeBron James needs to trade him. He needs to get someone better. Go for Damian Lillard. Either LeBron James needs to join Damian in Portland, or Damian needs to come join him in LA. I think that's a really solid option, and then send Anthony Davis off to be with somebody else. It doesn't matter who Anthony Davis is with, because after a year, he's going to get injured. It's really the perfect payment plan. You get sidelined and you still have a $40 million contract. So, go keep massaging that for me. All right, that's going to do it for us this week, folks. Thank you so much for watching the Kris Yeti News Review. We're going to be back next week. Please stick around and continue to support me, because this channel is going to be freaking awesome compared to every other YouTube channel. Mark my words. You're awesome. Thank you so much. Cheers and good night. Oh yeah, and Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah and Happy New Year's.